Today we will be tying the Stimulator dry fly. For a hook, I like the long shank curved hooks like this 200R from Risen Fly. This is a size 10. Place your hook securely in your vise, about at this angle. For thread, you want a thin thread, but something strong. I really like this 10-aught Vivus, and I'm using brown. Start your thread a little down from the hook eye, maybe about 2 to 3 eye lengths. You want to leave a little room. After you snap or snip the waist, then bring your thread down to the start of the bend of the hook. Make sure you have a good pair of sharp scissors. I really like these mitten scissors because they fit comfortably in the hand and allow you to easily choke up on them for more control. For the tail of the fly, use some deer hair. The Stimulator deer hair patch works perfectly for this fly, but if you can't find this, just make sure it's a quality deer hair and it's not too coarse. Snip off a small amount, and for this size fly, this is about the right amount. Pull out any of the fuzzy fibers. Just with your fingers is sufficient with this amount of hair. Then we need to stack the tips square. This is a small stacker that I like using with a small amount of hair. Sometimes you have broken tips, which is difficult to remove, but for a clean bug, they must be removed. The best way I've found is to use the pad of your thumb to move it out of the clump and then pull it out. Place this on top of your hook, extending back about a hook gap length. Then transfer the measurement to your other hand and make a light pinch wrap. Then start wrapping up the hook shank, gradually tightening the wraps. Once you reach about halfway up the shank, then snip off the waist at an angle, and then clean up those wraps. Now bring your thread back down to just shy of the tail. Now we need some wire. I like using this extra small wire in gold. Pull off a section, and this is enough to tie multiple flies. Capture the wire on the side of your hook and then pull the wire to length, to about where the deer hair was clipped. Now wrap up, binding down the wire. Then bring your thread back down to just shy of the tail again. We will now need some dry fly dubbing. I like using orange and yellow for this. Both natural and synthetic will work. Pull out a fair amount of orange dubbing and separate it slightly. Make a dubbing noodle with your thread with a taper like so. As you wrap this dubbing, make sure it covers the whole shank, and also ensure that you make an even tapered abdomen. You might need to add more, but you want to end about 2/3 the way up the hook shank. We will now need to hackle the abdomen with a brown hackle. I have these beautiful dry fly whiting saddles. Whatever hackle you use though, make sure it is a dry fly hackle. I like to downsize my abdomen slightly. It's hard to see here, but this is about a size 14 hackle, 2 sizes smaller than the hook. Prepare the hackle by stripping off some of the fibers at the base of the hackle. Now hackle has 2 sides, what I call the top and the bottom. The top will be shiny and the bottom will be dull. Tie this in perpendicular to the hook with an X-wrap like so. Then tie down the tip so it will not pull out. Now palmer the hackle down the fly's abdomen, making even wraps. Once you reach the back, then grab the wire and capture the hackle with it. Now make counter wraps up the abdomen. Try to make the same number of wraps with the wire as you did with the hackle. It helps to wiggle the wire while wrapping to keep from trapping hackle fibers. Capture the hackle securely and then simply helicopter the wire off. Now snip off the hackle's waist. Now we need to prepare the fly for the deer hair wing. Snip the hackle off at an angle like so, creating sort of a ramp for the wing to rest on. For the wing, we need a significantly larger clump. It's hard to say how much, but for this size fly, this is the right amount. For a larger clump like this, it helps to use a comb to get the fuzzy fibers out. Just one of these cheap combs will work. We will now need to stack this, and this larger stacker will be needed. As with the tail, you will also want to remove any broken tips here as well. And sometimes you might need to restack the clump to make sure it stays squared. Measure out this clump so it extends about halfway into the tail. Then transfer the measurement onto your other hand and make 2 loose wraps. While still grasping the wing, make a couple tighter wraps to the right of the initial wraps. Then I like to wrap through this clump like so to ensure that it will not spin. Then bring your thread back up to the initial tie-in point, but do not tighten. Cut off the waist at an angle. Then wind through the head here to clean it up slightly, but don't worry if it's not perfect. Bring your thread back up to the initial tie-in point, but do not tighten the last few wraps. Now we will need a grizzly hackle. I like to go slightly larger for this one than the brown hackle. It's hard to see here, but this is a size 12 hackle. Prepare and tie in the hackle the same way you did with the brown hackle. Now pull about half the amount of yellow dubbing and make a dubbing noodle onto your thread. Currently the wing is flared a bit, but we will correct that here. Start winding your noodle loosely behind the hackle feather and up slightly onto the wing while holding the wing down with your other hand. See how it flattens the wing a little? Now start wrapping up to the eye, ensuring that there is a taper getting smaller. If you need to add more dubbing, then do so. End right at the eye. Sometimes the wing will push off to one side, and you can simply trim that to make it even on both sides. Now palmer the hackle down the head, giving 4 to 5 wraps. This is difficult to do so with the camera in my way, so my apologies for making this look awkward. But you want to wrap over the hackle with your thread to capture it. Pulling the hackle forward slightly and parallel to the hook will ensure that less fibers are trapped. Make another wrap over the hackle and then pull everything back and wrap back up on top of the hackle slightly. Now trim off the waist and clean up the head. Whip finish the fly and the tying portion is now finished. To cement the head, I like using this Loon water-based head cement. It doesn't gum up the dubbing or front hackle, and it holds very well. Simply brush some onto the whip finish and it will soak in. However, the eye will most likely be filled with the cement, but simply flick the eye and it will come right out. And there you have it, the very popular Stimulator. This fly is great for representing many different bugs, especially stoneflies and caddis. It floats very high with all that hackle and is very effective throughout many different rivers. I used to fish this in Colorado often, especially the smaller streams. Wild trout would love eating this. So guys, I am sponsored by Risen Fly. However, that is not the only reason I use their hooks and gear. They do have great quality hooks and amazing quality gear at unbeatable prices. I have even been able to get you all a discount that you guys can use one time. Go to www.risenfly.com to check out what they have. And when you're ready to check out, just use my code McFly at checkout for an additional 15% off of anything you purchase in their shop. Also, I sell flies and fly boxes. The best way to order from me is to private message me on Instagram. But if you don't have an Instagram, you could go to my YouTube homepage, click the About button, and then go down to the Contact button and click it where it will give you my email. You can just shoot me an email with your order. If you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the like button. And I also want to hear from you. Let me know in the comment section what you think of this fly, or if you have any fish stories, I would love to hear what this pattern has caught for you. Anyway, thanks for watching everyone. I will see you on the next video. Now you go catch some fish.